Well, New York Congressman Ritchie Torres is an emerging leader and outside-the-box thinker in the Democrat Party. He stands firm in his support for the people of Israel while working to build a better community at home. CBN News Capitol Hill correspondent Michelle London sat down with Torres to discuss his remarkable journey from public housing to public service.
I'm here in the Bronx where Congressman Torres grew up in public housing, experiencing some good times as well as some hardships. He shared with me his early years are actually what helped cultivate his love for the people here, eventually leading to his love for public service.
My life has been a journey from public housing in the Bronx to the House of Representatives in Washington, D.C. I never thought in my wildest dreams.
At 37, New York Congressman Ritchie Torres has overcome improbable odds.
I spent all my life in the Bronx, all my childhood in poverty. I was raised by a single mother who had to raise three of us on minimum wage, which in the 1990s was $4.25 an hour.
During his early years here in the Throgs Neck houses, Torres also experienced his first ugly encounter with New York City politics. As a child, his severe asthma grew worse as neglected maintenance allowed mold to grow in his family's unit. Meanwhile, millions of dollars poured into a prestigious golf course close by. This lit a fire in Torres to create change, but not before struggling through years of brokenness and inner turmoil.
I had dropped out of college. I found myself struggling with depression, abusing substances. There were moments when I thought of taking my own life.
Even though Torres' world around him had seemingly collapsed, he didn't give up. Just 2 years later, at 24, he'd make history as one of the youngest elected New York City councilmen.
Through the grace of God, with the unwavering support of my mother, that I would overcome these challenges and become the youngest elected official in America's largest city, and then a few years later, become a member of the United States Congress.
And I know so many people can relate to this story. And when you even talk about dropping out of college, not finishing, how has that kind of helped you in some ways to connect more with your constituents and everyday working people?
I know what it's like to face food insecurity and housing insecurity. I know what it's like to struggle with mental illness and substance abuse. These are not abstractions to me. These are realities that I've lived in my own life.
Today, Torres brings that wisdom and on-the-ground life experience to the halls of Congress, fighting to prioritize issues his constituents face in the Bronx 15th District, down to Washington, like housing and an affordability crisis, as well as the open-air drug market. Thousands of miles away from the Bronx, Torres also keeps a close watch on the crisis surrounding the people in a country close to his heart.
When you experience both the complexity and majesty of Israel, of Jerusalem, it has a formative and transformative experience on you. You know, to experience the old city, Yad Vashem, which is the Holocaust Museum, the Masada, the Gaza envelope.
The congressman has spent the past decade traveling to parts of Israel and tells CBN News a conversation with a local mayor there helped shape his views and unwavering support for its people.
He said to me something that I've never forgotten. He said that the majority of his children struggle with post-traumatic stress because families like his live under the threat of relentless rocket fire. And I come from the Bronx, which can be a rough neighborhood. You know, I have family and friends and neighbors who live in fear of guns and bullets. But no American lives in fear of rockets. Before you rush to judge Israel, you should actually go there, speak to both Israelis and Palestinians, speak to Israeli Jews and Israeli Arabs, go to the Old City, go to the Masada, go to Yad Vashem, go to State Road, see the facts on the ground with your own eyes, and I guarantee you, if you have an open heart and an open mind, you will come to realize that the reality of Israel is far more complicated than the caricature that percolates on social media platforms and on college campuses.
Have you received any backlash from your own party on these views, or have they been pretty supportive?
So look, I face hatred from the extremes of both of the political spectrum. There is no topic on which I face more hate, harassment, and even death threats than on the subject of Israel. I've had my office vandalized. I've been ambushed outside my home. My mother's been the target of harassment. There was an activist who said, "You're a genocide mother. You should have aborted your son." I've lost relationships both in my family and friendships because the issue is so emotionally charged. But I feel like I've taken a principled position in favor of what is right.
Torres says he won't allow that violence or hatred to stop him from standing for what's right, reminding Americans that October 7th was a crime against humanity that must never be forgotten and never be repeated.
Do you agree with Netanyahu's handling of some of the ceasefire agreements?
Just like I have criticisms of the American government, I have criticisms of the Israeli government. But I love America and I love Israel. Ask yourself, how would you feel in the face of such overwhelming terror and violence? And how would you expect your government to respond to defend you and the people you love? The primary responsibility for the war in Gaza lies with Hamas. And that's a fact that should never be forgotten. And I feel like if you were Rip Van Winkle and you've been asleep since 2020 and you woke up and you saw the media coverage, you would think that October 7th had never happened, that Israel just one day decided to wage a war of aggression on Palestinians.
I want to kind of switch gears to NYC Democratic mayoral nominee, Zoran Mamdani. With respect to Israel, what are your concerns and how might you work with Mamdani if he wins on issues around Israel and anti-Semitism if he's elected?
I will cooperate with Mayor Mamdani on the issues on which we agree, and then on the issues on which we disagree, we'll have a vigorous debate in the marketplace of ideas. We should strive for constructive debate and dissent without demonization. The story of Israel and the United States is not a story of perfection, it's a story of progress. These are two fundamentally democratic societies that I believe are on the right side of history.
Congressman Torres continues to prioritize bringing home the Israeli hostages who were held captive nearly 700 days ago. Michelle London, CBN News, the Bronx, New York.
Now, what an American story to rise from the projects into the halls of Congress. Can only happen here in the United States. You look at these wonderful stories of success. It is the founding concept of America, that here in this nation you can make it. You can rise from whatever obstacles are in your way. I hope the entire Democrat Party takes a look at his position on Israel and realize that it's principled, that it's thought through, and it comes from the experience of actually being on the ground in Israel, to see the various areas, to talk to both Jewish Israelis as well as Muslim, Arab Israelis, as well as Christian Israelis, and get the real picture of what's happening. It's amazing to me that at the highest levels of the Democrat Party, they're now claiming that Gaza is some kind of genocide. It's like they have no idea and are completely ignoring how the war started in the first place. It started with incredible terror. And the ideology is entrenched where the Palestinian Charter calls for the destruction of Israel. The Hamas Charter calls for the destruction of Israel. The Palestinian Authority for decades has been paying people to wage war through terrorism against Israel. And that pay-to-slave program is still in place today. Why in the world would you ever reward that? Why would you think that that's somehow a good thing to do? And if you give them a state, that they'll somehow recognize the borders? Well, that's not the case. We need a principled stand with Israel.